Welcome to the Fast Mode podcast series. I'm Tara Neil, and with me today is Ruban Phukan, co-founder and CEO at GoodGist. GoodGist revolutionizes operations-driven businesses through its Agentic AI platform for business process automation. The company aims to democratize automation, making it accessible to organizations of all sizes. Its solution transforms how organizations handle unstructured data and dynamic information across different systems, delivering significant productivity gains and time savings per employee from time-consuming and repetitive tasks. Ruban joins us as part of our exclusive editorial segment on generative AI for network management. Welcome, Ruban. Great to have you on today's episode.
Thank you so much, Tara. Really appreciate you having me in this podcast.
Okay, awesome. All right, to start, can you explain what agentic AI is? I know it's the biggest buzzword right now. And also, we want to know, how does agentic AI differ from traditional automation approaches like robotic process automation?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with so much of noise around, it's quite natural that the term may seem very confusing and very scary in certain sense. But if you look at agentic AI, it's what AI should always have been, right? So agentic AI is nothing but autonomous system that when given a particular objective and given a knowledge base and data to work with, right, can think, reason, plan, and act to achieve that objective, right? So, which is what the vision of AI always have been. Um, Now, of course, this needs in the business context, it needs to have the right organizational guardrails, the right human oversight, so that AI agents are doing what they're supposed to do. Now, coming to the question of how is it different from, say, traditional automation technologies like RPA and others, the key difference is that traditional automation has always been rule based, where you need people to define specific rules of what that automation needs to be, right? Now, sometimes those rules are created visually by dragging and dropping on a UI interface, or they are done programmatically by someone coding it out, right? Now, this works well where the tasks are very deterministic, very well defined. The rules don't change dynamically, and they're more relatively stable environments, right? Now, so which is where RPA has worked really well. But when we look at modern businesses and with digital transformation that has happened, so now businesses sit with huge amount of unstructured data, and in today's world, decisions have to be made very, very dynamic. If we look at like even traditional businesses like manufacturing or supply chain logistics, so their decisions are not just determined by predefined rules, they're determined by on the field what happens, weather condition changes, or maybe the geopolitical dynamics changes and things like that, where decisions have to be made in a very adaptive manner. So those are the challenges where with traditional automation technologies, which are rule based, somebody has to go and update those rules, right, to make it happen. So that makes it a little bit slow to adapt to changes. It makes it expensive to deploy and maintain. Whereas with agentic AI, the AI can dynamically adjust given the parameters that has been defined, right? Saying that, yeah, if take weather into account, take regulations into account while making decisions, and then get it approved by a human user before you execute on those decisions, right? So that makes agentic AI a lot more adaptive for modern businesses and the modern automation challenges.
Excellent. So just to add on to that, say if we remove the word agentic and we just have AI, would it still mean the same? except you now have some execution as well. Is it basically back to the same, in terms of the logics of it? Is it the same?
Yes, at the core level, agentic AI evolved from the from generative AI technologies, and generative AI is just a evolution of how AI works. So when we think about classical AI or more traditional machine learning, so those are systems where you give the data, you give the input, and you give the desired output, right? And the system is trying to map the output to the information that you have given in the input, right? And create that mapping. Whereas the way that generative AI works is that you give sequences of language, text, you give sequences of videos or images, right? And the system is designed to learn how to predict the next occurrence in that sequence, right? So, for example, if I say that the early bird gets the, and I ask you what the answer is, most likely you are going to say the worm, right? Because that's how we have seen enough, and we have heard enough in the context. But early bird could also get the discount, right? In
Yes.
context of modern day
That's a good
events.
one.
But yeah, that usually doesn't come to mind. But that's essentially how generative AI works. Is that it has been trained on huge amount of data, almost practically the whole of internet text. So it has seen, and when you start a sequence, it's able to predict the next thing in the sequence, right? Or the next most probable thing in the sequence. Or you could ask it to be creative, in which case it can even predict early bird gets the discount, which is not less probable, but still occurs frequently. So, in context of like images and videos, you can think of it like solving a jigsaw puzzle, right? So you have those puzzle pieces, and the AI is trained on seeing, let's say, a lot of cat photographs, right? Now you give a puzzle which has like pieces of the cat's face, and it can put them together given what it has seen, right? So now with this technology, what it has enabled is that we now have like superior language understanding capability from a mathematical sense, right? Because at the end of it, it's still predicting probabilities at the core. Um, so with this, we are able to instruct the system to take a set of text, and from that text form a basis of understanding to answer questions, to map instructions to outcome, right? And basically take actions in the same context as a generative way, right? So it's all about saying that if I take an action one, what happens next, right? And based on that, if I take an action two, what will happen next, right? So it's the same sequence based approach to that. So at the core of the technology, generative AI is a evolution of AI, or it's a different way of doing AI, of all the different forms of AI based technology which is out there, right? Uh, Now, agentic AI is basically now taking that technology, applying that technology into context which enables a system to act autonomously, right? Or to solve problems autonomously, or to handle autonomously, right? So yeah, so that's so which is where all those technologies are very much related internally, but it's more in terms of the application that changes things dramatically.
All right. Okay. Interesting. So, talking about the application, let's see the telco space, for example. What opportunities does agentic AI present for operators? Like, areas maybe improve network performance, user experience, and also employee experience.
Yeah. Um, I think the way to look at it for any business or any industry, not just for telco, is to look at problems which are still manual, which are time consuming, repetitive in nature, um, or problems which are way too complex, which to solve manually becomes a challenge today, right? So those are ideal contexts to really deploy AI agents, or where creating rules for automation is a lot more challenging when done manually, right? Now, to go to specific examples, the use cases within telcos can be very many. But very simple things like, say, workflow management and for operational efficiency, right? Specifically when it comes to truck rolling optimization, right? Where the AI agents can manage the truck rolls and better based on which field engineers are available, which technicians are available, or by monitoring the networks around and even like doing it in a more predictive manner, saying that where are likely falls going to happen so that it can pre-plan some of those scheduling ahead of time, right? So that's one area where you cannot really create like standard manual rules for doing this.
Yep.
Things
Yep.
changes dynamically. Another area is cybersecurity and regulatory compliance. So basically, continuously monitoring networks for threats, which again is not easily done through rule-based system, but AI can learn by observing and identifying where all anomalies are happening, right? Or match everything according to compliance guidelines and determine are there any risk, are there any misses there. Um, so that's another area. It can also, let's say, be applied for network optimization. So where it can do real-time monitoring of like 5G networks or fiber and wireless networks, right? And it can dynamically even update the routing and reconfigure the network parameters based on anomalies that it's detecting, right? So that way you can have even higher uptime of the networks, right? Um, and on similar lines of the cybersecurity, you can also have like fraud detection and prevention, right? It can detect things like are there SIM cloning that is happening, right? Or scam callers identification. So those are some of the things that it can do automatically. And then, of course, the most common use case is on customer service automation, where you can now really have bots and agents which actually behave like human agents, right? Which can understand what the user is saying and not like adhere to only predefined set of rules. Where in today's world we find a challenge that it has a very specific set that you have to say certain things. It'll take you to the next step in the support, and if you say something else, then of course the chat bot or the voice bot cannot really understand. Now that changes with agentic AI based systems, which can actually understand what exactly the user is trying to get to, right? And come up with optimal resolutions, almost like a human agent can do, right? That enables scaling of support like 24 by 7. Nobody has to wait on calls, or nobody has to wait on chat agents to come online, because the AI agents can pretty much replicate what a human agent can do. And only when the AI agent is not able to solve a particular problem and it's complex or it has not been seen before, that's where the human agent comes in, right? So that enables telecom operators to really scale a lot.
Wow, interesting. Let's, for example, you mentioned the chatbots, right? Virtual assistants and stuff. Taking that example, can we like to understand this further? See, there was an era where it was just AI-based chatbots. And then later you have Gen AI based chatbots. And today you have Agentic AI based chatbots. But essentially it's chatbots. See, what is the difference between these three phases? I know we all know that, at the beginning, a chatbot would just mean that you go to a website and you will just say, how do I contact your sales? And then it will give you like a sales email. From there, how does it now become a Gen AI and then now Agentic AI?
Yeah.
As a
So
user, what do we see?
exactly. So if you look at the first form of chatbots, right, which used to be like a very fixed set of options, you go there and you say that I have a problem, and then it will give you a menu of options, right? Is your
Yes,
problem
yes.
A, B, C, or something else, right? And it's almost like a mapping of how IVR system works, where that you have a fixed set of options, press one for this, press two for this, but if you have anything outside of the fixed set of numbers, there's nothing much that you can do, right? Now, from there, we evolve to the next set, which is like Gen AI based agents, where the way that agent works is that you have a question and it gets mapped into a set of answers, right? So where the way that a Gen AI agent would work is that it'll take that question, try to find similar questions in the repository, right? That is there, and then based on that, give an answer, right? Or it's more like a relatively simpler set of questions, right? Now, because that is happening more in terms of like a search and summarization based approach. Now, with agentic approach, you could come to the platform and start conversations about the weather, right? I'm concerned that the weather might bring the network in my neighborhood down, and we have had these challenges before. What can I do to counter that, right? Now, that may not have been possible through regular, the rule-based chatbots or the generative AI-based chatbots if that information has not been provided before, right? Or somebody has not asked the question. Now, with agentic AI, it can start reasoning. It can start interacting with the user to really understand what is the core problem, right? Now, of course, the user starts with a completely out of the norm kind of a context. Now, the agent can help refine that, saying that, yeah, can you tell me when was the last time that you faced network issues? What happened during that network issues, right? And drill it down to where it can do specific lookups of information, right? And not make the user feel that, oh, I cannot answer that question, right, for you. So that I mean, this was just a random example,
Yes,
but it
yes,
hopefully gives
yes,
the context of
yes.
the kind of things that AI agent can actually handle. It actually makes the interaction with the agent a lot more human, sort of, right? It's almost like talking to a real agent, because if you talk to a real agent and you give this problem, they're not, even if they're not trained to answer that question, they're not going to say that, oh, I
Yes,
cannot answer that question and put the phone down.
yes, yes,
So it's,
exactly.
it's, it's about getting to that.
Yes, exciting. So, looking at Good Gist, right? What are you guys doing in this space? What are your offerings in this space? And how do you help operators deploy agentic AI?
Yeah. So we are a platform for businesses to really create, deploy, and manage AI agents at scale. And where we look at AI agents as an extension to the workforce, right? Not and internally we said that we keep saying that the future is automation and not isolation, right? So which means that you cannot deploy agents like black box, which are like operating in isolation and you have no idea what is going behind the scene, right? So that will obviously not work in the business context. So just like we have, say today, Slack or Microsoft Teams and other platforms for human to human collaboration. That's how a lot of work gets done efficiently. So to really have AI agents and human work together, you need an environment that enables that, right? That is designed specifically for building trust of human with AI agents, right? Because unless that trust gets built, you cannot expect things to work very smoothly or very effectively, right? Now, to build a trust, you need the ability to audit what the AI agents are doing. You need the
Yeah.
ability to orchestrate communication between AI agents and employees and team members, right? You need proper guardrails so that the AI agents are not going off track. You need ability to have a feedback mechanism where that users can provide feedback to the agents and the agents can learn from there, right? So we offer that platform where, given the business objective, given the problem that you are trying to solve and the automation that you are trying to build in, that you can deploy AI agents more like collaborative team members with your employees to work together to solve that problem, right? And at the end goal, our goal is to help businesses get to intelligent process automation, where automation doesn't mean replacement of people. Automation is essentially augmenting people to do more strategic work and reduce their time where it doesn't really move the needle for them to do, right? And then use AI agents to take up those kind of tasks which are repetitive, time consuming, or even complex to do.
Wow, exciting. So, I wanted to ask regarding, the training data that supports all these processes, right? So, do you guys also deal with lots of training data?
Yeah, so we at the core we use GenAI agents. We use the standard language models for that, but really the core data comes from the business itself, because when we are trying to automate the process, and which is why um, we don't claim that, oh, we have this generic agents that you can deploy in any organization, because it doesn't really work that way.
Yep.
When it
Yep.
comes to process automation, every organization is unique. They have different ways of doing things, they have different processes. So unless and until the AI fits into that organizational processes, and you are not forcing the organization to change their processes to fit into AI way of doing things, right? So that is the core objective, right? That we are trying to solve. So essentially the core thing is that when we work with companies, we try to really understand how do they do things, what are their processes, right? And we work with them to create like custom AI agents which are built based on their defined processes,
Yeah.
and the
All right.
data that comes in is basically the knowledge base that exists within that organization, and because these agents are very very specific, right?
Yep. Okay. So the other thing that also wanted to ask is that, are there any use cases where agentic AI and Gen AI are jointly deployed? I know this sounds a little bit peculiar, but just wanted to understand.
Yes. So if you look at, like I said, that agentic AI is built on top of Gen AI. So internally, of course, it's a Gen AI system that is at work. But having said that, there are specific differentiation, because when we think of Gen AI, we think of something different. We think of AI, which is like writing text or
Yes. Yes.
generating
Yes.
videos or
Videos.
generating images, right? And when we think of agentic AI, we think of AI agents which are performing actions, right? Now, some of those actions can also be generative actions, right? So, for example, a part of the AI agent's task is maybe to draw out a map, all right, or network route or basically write a report, right? So you can think of AI agents internally leveraging the core GenAI technologies of doing that, right? So it's doing per certain actions, it's collecting the data. Now it has to generate a report out of it. So it uses the traditional GenAI based approach to create that report, or it needs to draw a network diagram. So it uses the GenAI, the vision kind of models to do that, right? So you can think of that, but at the very high level, they are like very deeply integrated systems.
All right. Okay. Excellent. Brilliant insights. So, I think we have one last question for today, which is, when you guys deploy agentic AI for operators, do you see any challenges, and what are the things that we should look out for, and maybe how do we mitigate these things?
Yes. So the first and foremost, or the biggest challenge that is there is essentially the expectation challenge, or I would say the use case challenge, which closely ties with the ROI challenge, right? Because at the end of the day, businesses want to measure their ROI of deploying, let's say, agentic AI systems, right? But then ROI cannot be measured if you start with the technology first, right? And when we work with companies, that's what we start by saying that to start with, you have to forget that agentic AI or generative AI or any of those technologies even exist, right? Let's start with the problem space that you are trying to solve, right? And then we determine what is the right solution, right? So sometimes it may be that traditional rule-based systems are good enough, right? You don't really need to deploy AI
Yep.
agents.
Yes.
So, starting with the problem, starting with where the current state is and what is the desired future state, right? Where does the organization want to be? And then mapping the right technologies. And if agentic AI is the solution to get there effectively, so that is what it is. Because then you can track ROI, you know what to measure, what is the current state and what is the difference with the future state that you expect it to be, and the ROI calculation becomes very very easy. So that is the biggest hurdle that we see, is that a lot of businesses start by saying that okay, we need to deploy AI agents, right? And then they don't know where to start.
Yes.
So that is the first challenge. The second is of course the technology challenge, because technology is changing so dynamically that from generative AI to agentic AI, all this change happen within a year, right? and
Yes.
and now it's
Yep.
even moving faster every day, right? With so many players coming in, and now different countries. Earlier, it used to be that okay, this is a very expensive technology, so only certain businesses can afford. But now with DeepSeek and others coming in, so people have realized that oh no, this is like it can be done even affordably, right? Now
Yep.
the whole technology is getting democratized, which means that it'll evolve even faster. So keeping pace with those changes and making sure that you have the right technology getting deployed for the right use case is definitely a challenge that we see businesses trying to handle. Then of course the cultural challenge, which is basically educating people, because there's a lot of fear that is being created as well, because nobody knows what AI really is, right? So there is the existential threat challenge, which is being introduced by Hollywood movies, and people saying that okay, this is going to be a threat to humanity, right? I think we are a bit far from that in the state at which AI is today. But of course, with the wrong hands, it can do more damage, which are not directly robots going and harming people, but it's more in terms of cybersecurity threats and all of
Yeah.
those issues, right? So yes, the right guardrails and those challenges are required, but more importantly, it's also about looking at how AI is going to be deployed within that organization and
Mm-hmm.
what AI would do, because a lot of fear is that is it going to take away jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the real threat is not whether AI will replace humans. It's more about how can human use AI to augment what they are doing better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And scale businesses better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think bridging that cultural gap and ensuring that this is not about replacing people, it's
Mm-hmm.
figuring out where are the efficiency bottlenecks, right? Which are
Mm-hmm.
anyway not solved today, and how can AI help solve those challenges by working as a team member with the employees and not against them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, it's the governance challenge with AI, where yeah, I mean, you need to be mindful about all the regulatory changes. You need to be mindful about all the other. Of course, cybersecurity and all those challenges that we have talked about becomes a part of that, but also about access control, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
about what kind of data that you give access to certain agents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also who has access to the agents themselves, right? So
Mm-hmm.
all of those becomes important thing when trying to design a agentic environment within an
Mm-hmm.
organization.
Wow, these are some really amazing insights. Valuable for people trying to learn a lot more in this area. And I think with that, it also brings us to the end of our session. Thank you, Ruben, for joining us today and sharing the insights on AI, agentic AI, generative AI, and also GoodGist's involvement in the area.
Thank you so much, Tara, and thanks for having me today. It was great talking to you.
Awesome. And to everyone tuning in, thank you guys for listening. If you want to learn more, visit goodgist.com and do follow us for more updates and insights as we continue to uncover the latest in technology and telecommunications. See you guys in our next session. Bye bye.